The Free Agents podcast contains mature themes and adult language. Any discussion of gambling is for entertainment purposes only. Please abide by all laws in your location regarding gambling.
This should be our intro. Can we start?
This week on The Free Agents. Welcome to the Free Agents Podcast, Monday Action Edition. We were live in studio here with our very own Frenchy the Greek. How you doing, French?
Good. How are you?
Very good, very good. And LJ joins us via Skype for our Monday edition as well. LJ, what's going on?
I am just waiting to hear the sage information, see if we can find something where we can win some money.
That sounds good to me, too.
Yeah, some entertaining Vegas action here for our Monday edition. So there's definitely some interesting sort of upset games this week. What were your thoughts on the?
Well, it was a hell of a week. There was so many home underdogs, and therefore a lot of road favorites. So there was a lot of short point spreads this week. So usually when that happens, you're going to get a lot of public consensus on these games because you're seeing smaller numbers than normal for your heavy favorites since they're on the road, taking away that 3 points for the home field advantage. So I naturally thought that the public was going to have a bad week this week because there were so many games. There was about 9 or at least a solid 8. But they ended up going about 4 for 4, if not 5 for 4. So, that just states the case. If you read my blog, I wrote about the whole public consensus thing, staying about 42.5%, which is at the non-making money level. But, like I said, it's not quite a completely fade system, but something to consider in your handicapping for sure. But I think definitely this week's biggest one is probably the Philadelphia game, running around 80% consensus. The line jumps from 4 to 7, and then the Vikings win that game. What did you think about that game, LJ?
I was one of the people that was running around touting. I actually opened my mouth Saturday and I was like, "Oh, I think the matchup of the week, the easiest pick is Philly over Minnesota."
Yeah.
Running my mouth like a friggin' like, here you go, this is gonna be easy. I got texts today. Oh, really, Philly? Yeah. And then I double back in my mind and go, oh yeah, I was the one that said Nick Foles was going to start regressing.
Yeah, we were fading Philly for a couple of weeks there, or at least fading Nick Foles.
I don't think that's a bad train of thought either to want to regress Nick Foles, and I think that's in the right the right mindset you should be having. This guy shouldn't be having as great of a season as he is. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. But he threw another interception yesterday, but he still got 428 yards passing and 3 touchdowns.
Like, great fantasy.
He is
owner,
good. Yeah, he is really good. And they're becoming a lot of fun to watch. I think this is finally the Eagles team that we kind of thought they were supposed to be, although it was supposed to be with Michael Vick.
Yeah, well, at the beginning of the year, we were real big on Philly. We really, I kind of heralded them as the new offense.
Tempo and
face the new offense in this league.
Exactly. And that still can be the case. I mean, they're still getting a lot of plays off, and they're still scoring, and their defense is still giving up a lot though too. And that's what they're going to have to sacrifice with the tempo that they want to do.
That's been the Eagles' problem all year. They've been a team to really the over has been a dream for them because they seem to want to go over every week. And fantasy-wise, they're a great team. They're just, they have to be tough to gamble because you never know what team you're going to get.
Yeah, it's true.
The defense 1 week they've had a couple of weeks where the defense has shown up, but 9 times out of 10, it's, okay, what are you going to do with Philly? I'm going to take the over.
Yeah.
And if you're playing that week to week, you can win some money fantasy stuff. Well, I'll take Nick Foles and LaShawn McCoy. Thank you.
And this team has just had some enormous totals. They've had 5, 6, 7. They've had 9 games with over 50 so far, as their point spread, as their over-under total, and they're 8-6 to the over. So naturally, they're just going to get over tickets every week. And, although they're playing Chicago and Dallas the next 2 weeks, those are going to be massively big totals in these games. I think Chicago's already at 56, and I would expect Dallas to be right up there with it. But I think you're going to see some of the public kind of maybe come off this team because those are high-profile games. We're not going to see a full consensus on Philly the rest of the way out. But, there's still always going to be respected money on this team, I think, going through, especially if they make the playoffs.
Now, Philly and Chicago next week. I know we're going to talk about that in the other segment.
We'll talk about
good
that later.
Lord, the scoring that's supposed to happen in that game, the contrarians got to be licking their chops, thinking under. That, but like I said, we'll talk about that next segment.
Oh, I mean, definitely. I mean, I guess when you got the over/under mark on the years, 124-97, that's huge. It's at the point where, like, all right, every week just bet every over blindly, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one that tends to think that there'll always be a regression with trends, no matter what. But at this point in the year, the under's it's just not going to catch up. It's not going to happen. This week it was 10-5. So that just goes to show if there was any chance of the under catching up in the last 3 weeks of the season, well, it didn't get off to a good start yesterday. But the thing is we're seeing these adjusted totals, like Smart was talking about when we were looking at the lines for next week. There are so many high totals next week. And you see a 53, a 46, a 56, a 50 flat. So there's just going to be a lot the rest of the way out, which means we're going to have value on the unders as always.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start looking now where you're going to see some unders, where you're going to start seeing, all right, this team has been trying all year, but it's kind of getting to the end of the year. Who's getting ready to pack it in? That's maybe where you start seeing the value on an underplay. Who's not going to care? Who's actually looking to maybe lose a game to improve their draft position?
Mm-hmm. You're dead on, LJ. There are some good underplays, but you have to be very selective this time of year.
Yeah.
Because there's also the attrition factor where you have teams that, especially defenses wear down. And I think that's also part of where we've seen these high scores, and that's why Vegas is adjusting.
Yeah.
And no matter how bad you lost yesterday, you did not do as bad as the Washington Redskins did.
No.
They just locked in the number 1 draft pick, the number 2 draft pick in next year's draft, or this upcoming year's draft, for the St. Louis Rams.
Yeah.
While they're having while the guy they traded for was riding pine yesterday.
It's amazing watching this team kind of melt down at the end of the year, and they want to get rid of Shanahan, and RG3's catching criticism, and his body language on the bench yesterday it was enormous, like how uncomfortable he looked and felt. And he's a little bit younger. I don't think he probably thinks about things like that, but the way you carry yourself, like it speaks lots of words about, your character and just what's going on the sidelines there. Kirk Cousins all of a sudden doesn't look that bad, and now they want to audition him in the final 3 weeks of the season to try to get back one of those draft picks. Do you think that's a good idea?
Hell yes. As you need a number 1 draft
pick. They need the pick. I just don't understand why Mike Shanahan's still there. This baffles me, because if you're Dan Snyder, obviously you believe in RG3 for now, at least. So why wouldn't you, if you really want to show him some support, instead of making him tough it out for the rest of the season and then having Shanahan leave anyway, just get rid of Shanahan. He's been trying to get out of there anyway. So why haven't they made that move?
Because all of a sudden Dan Snyder is being cheap. He'd owe Shanahan a lot of money if he fired him, and he's really debating. I think it's an actual issue. Am I really going to pay this narcissistic asshole that I listened to and who was supposed to take me to the next level? I went and traded away my future to get him the quarterback that he wanted. I brought in his bastard kid to run the offense. I did all of this stuff. I invested all this money, and now I'm going to let him go and let him go sit on the beach and spend my money. This has got to be galling him.
But it's seriously angry about the whole thing. I have no doubt that's the logic. But if you're really being objective about your team and your business, this is hurting your team more, I think. If you're going to try to salvage RG3, you're definitely hurting your
sports teams. Their egos are massive. These guys buy these sports teams because they all they desire is winning, and then this is another way for them to win. And Dan Snyder is in the George Steinbrenner mold. He wants to win. And Yankee fans, we know about crazy ownership.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I think I thought it was great. I wrote about that in the blog. It was the same thing when Cleveland traded Trent Richardson, and then Brian Hoyer was making his first start of the year. They were going into Minnesota to play a game. Minnesota was started out as about a 4-point favorite. It went up to 7 at kick, and everybody and their mother was on the Vikings in that game, saying that Cleveland had just traded away its best player, Trent Richardson. Little did we know he was going to be awful the rest of the year. And then Hoyer was starting, so no one wanted anything to do with Minnesota. It was the same exact situation this week. No one wanted anything to do with the Redskins. But whenever you have this much hype, like, I can't help but want to go the other way. And I'm really glad anyone who's been sticking with me in the blog on these, giving out these Redskin picks the last 4 weeks, man. I hope I haven't burned too many people, but like, except myself. But I'm glad I got one back here though, finally.
Yeah, they owed you one, definitely.
Oh, jeez.
Now, if you're looking for a team that's checked out, it's the Atlanta Falcons. They'll score you some points, but that they've checked out. They're not winning. They're not winning for pride. They're not winning for anything.
So another big consensus game we had was the Patriots, and this was some reverse line movement in this game. This thing opened at 2.5, and then quickly, or no, it wasn't quickly. I think it was on Thursday or Wednesday. All of a sudden the line just falls to a pick'em. It didn't even stop at 1.5. I think it went to 2 and then just straight to a pick'em. So someone with respected money, slammed the fish and pretty hard. And then as the game got closer to kick, the line went to 2.5 in Miami's favor. Yet there was more tickets on the Patriots. I think rightly so. I didn't have an opinion on this game. I was leaning fish. But I missed the value boat. I'm not gonna jump in after a 5-point swing and, in the line towards the Dolphins. But someone respected knew what was going on in this game. Why do you think that money came in? I mean, is it because
the rivalry? Floyd Mayweather was hanging around with Pitbull in Miami and decided to bet on the Dolphins? I don't know.
I mean, the Pats.
I don't know who has that kind of money over there swinging things. You listen to Scoochie on the podcast and you hear about these characters that come in and okay, I would only give this line to that guy. I mean, this gambling stuff. There's no set rules.
Yeah.
They kind of, all right, we're odds makers. We're making odds in our favor and hopes to keep money coming in on both sides. When stuff like that happens, you just sit there, you go, okay, guess it, and then I guess it corrected itself, right?
I still think they must have made out all right, unless the sharp money outweighed the public money. Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to. I think the only time, they're at exposure is when the sharps and the public are on the same side, which I don't really think that happened this week, but when that does, then obviously, when Scooch says that's what he's talking about, those are the games that I sweat.
Year after year, after year after year, the Dolphins beat the Patriots in December.
Yep.
In Miami.
Merry Christmas.
It seems to just be it's like a tradition. It's like Black Friday. It's like Thanksgiving. It's like Christmas. The Dolphins will beat the Patriots when they come south.
I think a lot of people see the 2.5, anything under a field goal with the Patriots and instantly think that they're getting value. It doesn't even matter who's starting for receivers. Like in their mind, it's just, this is a good team and this is a low point spread.
Yeah,
like I'm going to bet this game.
The public money, definitely. But clearly the sharps are all over this.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it later, but I think it's going to be a similar thing. They're going to go into Baltimore and they're going to have the off the loss trend, the Belichick off the loss trend, all these different things. And I think it's about a pick 'em on that game. New England maybe -1. So I think we're going to see that consensus come right back on them next week. Only one other game I want to talk about that had a high percentage was, the Saints, and that thing was around 75%. The line jumped from 4 to 6.5, and then St. Louis ends up winning the game outright. I was watching a good amount of that game on the Red Zone because they had a nice chunk of it, and I'm like, how did the Rams win that game? It's 17 first downs, just 158 passing yards. I know Zach Stacy ran the ball really well, but how did the Saints manage to blow that? They got 2 blocked field goals.
Turnovers, and it was some turnovers, and it was Robert Quinn getting to the quarterback. I mean, that's what that game was. They disrupted the Saints enough to make them make some mistakes early. They capitalized on those mistakes. It looks like they kicked a couple of field goals. I mean, and that was it. Yeah. And then their defense. Their defense is better than their offense by far. That's a good that's a Rams defense that's really coming together. They are one of the best front fours in all of football on the defensive side of the ball. And they get to the quarterback, and they got to Drew Brees, and they made mistakes.
St. Louis I think they're silently, they should be a respected team. They should be more respected than the amount of credit they get. And they nearly beat the Seahawks at home, and they've beaten the Saints now at home. So they play good teams hard.
And they're starting Kellen Clemens, and they're beating the New Orleans Saints. Jeff Fisher, you're still a pretty good coach. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They got good leadership. They got a team. I mean, ridiculous. Like I said, ridiculous defense. And if they're going to draft, they're going to have two top 11 draft picks.
Yeah,
they're going to have the second draft pick, and then whatever their draft pick ends at. They're just getting better. This is a Rams team too that's got pride. This is one of those teams that's not backing it in. I don't know. Maybe the public turns around on them, sees that they beat the Rams. I mean, next week, will the public fade the Rams a little, or will the public jump on the Rams a little too much?
I still don't think so, just because of with Clemens starting. No one wants to get on that. But, they are playing Tampa Bay, so that game should be, I think that'll be off the mind of any square bettor, because there's no excitement whatsoever for anyone in that game. I mean, unless they have a fantasy player going, I don't think that's just one of these games like Buffalo Jacksonville this week that just no one is going to want to watch.
It's a real yawner.
I mean, except for the bettors and the fantasy people, So the other, just run through them real quick. The other consensus games that I had marked as wins for public consensus were San Fran was running about 70% consensus against Tampa Bay. Seattle, who shut out the Giants. The Bears, which was about a pick'em, which I think helped spawn a lot of action, and especially after the Monday night win. Anytime a Monday night team wins, you're going to see extra tickets punch on them the following week. And then Kansas City just absolutely destroying Oakland was another big consensus. That was about 75% plus. Now, I want to transition that into next week a little bit, because Indy and Kansas City are going to be playing, and these are two teams that have been bet on by the public pretty much all year long. Now KC has put up 56 points last week, and I think that's the high mark on the year for any single team. Now, the Colts are going to be coming in as an underdog here, about a 6-point underdog, and they've been bet on by the public every week. Just read my column. I can't even write about them any week when I have to write that, because I'm just sick of it, it's true though, like, people are always going to want to bet the Colts. So what do you guys think? Like, what will the consensus split be on this game? Do you think there'll be more action on KC? You think there'll be teasers on KC, bringing it down to just a win at home? Or do you think the public will really go out and bite on Indianapolis at the plus 6.5, just thinking that they're a good team getting points?
I need to know, has Indy clinched their division?
Yes.
Okay, if Indy's clinched their division, if the public has looked at that, they're going to go, okay, Kansas City, because Indianapolis is playing for less. Kansas City has a chance to actually win their division. They came from, oh my God, we lost 2 to Denver. We're just going to have to go and travel for first round of the playoffs to, oh my God, we may end up with a bye week, and we can still win our division. So this is a Kansas City team that's rejuvenated, and it's still an Indianapolis offense that still has trouble moving the ball against a good Kansas City defense. So on a purely analytical thing, I mean, the public, if they do that, I'm going to go Kansas City. If I'm thinking like the public thinks, I'm going to go Kansas City.
That's a great point. Yeah, and it's looking like there's no way Indy's going to get out of the wild card round at this point, and they're going to have to play, so they're not going to get a bye week.
Yeah.
They know that. And I think they're content just getting in. And like last year, they were the first 11-win team to make it to the playoffs with a negative point differential. Well, guess what? They might be the first team to do that again this year, or the second year in a row, the first team to do it 2 years in a row, if they get 2 more wins, or at least go in with a 10-6 record. But either way, I still believe that this team is extremely overrated. I don't want to say extremely. I still think they're overrated. Not having Reggie Wayne has clearly hurt this team. The defense played better yesterday. It looked, but still as a whole, I don't like this. I don't like this defense. Now, Kansas City, how many points have they scored the last 2 games? And off the top of their head.
1 billion.
101. 101 points
101
in 2 games. Is that good or is that good? Granted, they were both home games. Oh, I know. They were both road games. Excuse me. They were both road games.
Well, they got some special teams touchdowns in one of those games. And then it was just Jamal Charles just having the game of his fucking career. and I mean, that was just insane. They started a support group for people that were losing to Jamal Charles in fantasy yesterday.
Our buddy Big Juts posted he was commiserating Jamal Charles on Facebook.
It was everybody was having a bad day that was going against Jamal Charles, and everybody who had him is sitting there doing a dance. And I have him in a league where I also have him with Peyton Manning, so I'm like number 1 in that league. I'm putting up record points that I've never seen before, and I mean, in my league he scored 70 points yesterday.
That's insane. That doesn't even sound fair.
It's not fair. It's ridiculous.
It's a ridiculous deviation from
insane, ridiculous shit. And they're going to regress back to something. So I mean, God, you got to be teased by that 43.5 over under, huh?
Yeah.
You gotta be teased by. You got to be like, so the public's probably going to go over. That's where I'm guessing the public is going in that game.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good thing, and that also makes me want to kind of think the same thing too. I hate to jump into the boat, but that total is going to go up. So if any values to be had, it's right now, and I hate.
Oh yeah, you're waiting till Sunday morning, and you're going to go, oh that over under went up to 44. Oh no, wait, 44.5. Oh yeah. Well, time to go under.
Yeah. So let's go through some other games next week. Public, what do you think? There'll be more action on. I think one will be the New Orleans Saints. They're going into Carolina. I know Carolina's been playing very well in the latter half of the season, but the fact that the Saints beat up on them at home a couple weeks ago, I think is still going to be fresh in the public's mind. I think they might.
It's not going to be fresh in the public's mind. They just got their asses beat the shit out of by St. Louis's defense.
No, that's a great point. I think that'll definitely help sway for some Carolina bets.
And then this is New Orleans on the road, outside in the elements.
And they're now.
I mean, there's a few things working against them. This is the week that the public may get slayed if they just jump on New Orleans. Go ahead, public, jump, but
I think it's similar like when you see the Pats when they have plus points. It's you instantly bet this team, doesn't matter who they're playing, when they're an underdog. I think that's kind of what I was getting at. It's like, Drew Brees is getting points. Like, how can I not take that? I think that's kind of more the mindset I was thinking. But, I mean, hanging a 3 for Carolina essentially is saying that these teams are evenly matched. Do you still believe these teams are evenly matched?
Yes. When outside of a dome, outside of New Orleans, these teams are evenly matched. This is New Orleans gets the advantage at home. But on the road, I mean, it becomes, like I said, a different game. And you're going to be looking at Carolina just trying to run the ball down the Saints' throats. And Stacy did it, and other teams have been able to run the ball on the Saints. They haven't been able to throw.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see D'Angelo Williams and Mike Tolbert be running the ball, and then little play action of Greg Olsen. And I'd go under. That's another one I like to go under.
And what do we have for a total on that?
46.
46.
And that's a contrarian play because, New Orleans over. Everybody just likes to go automatic there. Just give me New Orleans in the over.
I think this is just about the same line as the last game, too. Yeah, 44 on the last one. Or no, we had 47. We had 47. The total score of their last matchup was 44. And I think with a similar thing. I think a lot of people thinking the over in that, but New Orleans, they got up early. That thing had 27 points at the half, looking like it was going to go over. And then the scoring slowed down in that game. So let's move to Cincinnati and Minnesota, because I still think, even though Minnesota just upset Philly, people still want to fade this team with no Adrian Peterson. Like, do you think Matt Asiata will have 3 touchdowns again? Do you still think that Ponder can keep up as well as he's been playing the last couple games? And I think,
well, it hasn't been Ponder; it's been Matt Castle that's been doing it.
Yeah, excuse me.
And
edit.
And Cincinnati's just proven it week in and week out. Cincinnati will get up on a team, and then everybody goes, "Oh, that defense, they're stomping." And then all of a sudden, that defense is giving up points in the second half. If you're a serious gambler, you're betting on Cincy in the first half and against him in the second half. And if you're just a regular old gambler, I like Minnesota getting points, because you're gonna have to sweat it. You're gonna see Cincinnati probably get an early lead, but then for whatever reason they get soft. And Minnesota still has weapons. The name Cordell Patterson, the kid from Tennessee, the wide receiver, big, tall, fast, can move. He's become almost a decoy. Yesterday he was the decoy. All of a sudden Greg Jennings is getting 135 yards receiving. Why was that? Because Cordell Patterson was being double teamed. The safety was fading his way. So all of a sudden Minnesota has a passing game because they got because the young kids broken out. And Cincinnati has some issues on defense. So I don't know. I think the public's going to go Cincinnati's way, but I think Minnesota's a good play.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think 7.5 is great value right now for Minnesota. And the public's going to look at it as this is a must-win game for Cincinnati, flat out, with last night's loss. And if Baltimore happens to get a win tonight against Detroit, then this is a must-win game. And you tend to see a lot of backing on those kind of teams in these kind of situations.
And it was fun to watch Matt Castle revive some of what he had done in the past. And people in New England remember when he had that fire and was kind of like a poor man's Tom Brady out there leading the team, and he was doing that yesterday. It was pretty impressive, actually.
And they were able to sell him as that to Kansas City. And what did they end up getting in that trade? They sent Castle and Vrabel for a first rounder or a second rounder.
Yeah, they got a bunch
something.
of picks. Yeah, it was like a whole host of picks.
What a deal. But didn't they have a friend in the front office at Kansas City too, a former?
Yeah, there's the whole Scott Pioli connection. He was
some similar staff, so that just helped mend the conversations, really. It all goes to show. All right, well, so here's another one. Arizona and Seattle. Seattle's laying 10. I instantly like Arizona in this game because, they're fighting for a playoff spot, just like we just talked about, want to back teams that are in that situation. And Seattle's sitting pretty.
Just be careful, because Larry Fitzgerald may have a concussion, and that may be why the line's at 10.
That will be a difference maker for sure. But don't you think that 10 is a lot to give for a team that's still alive?
That's true, but they're minus I don't know how much of an impact Tyrann Mayhew, the Honey Badger, had, but he's gone for the season. He had moved into the starting cornerback role. Larry Fitzgerald with some injuries, and it's still Seattle at home.
Yes.
They're rolling along right now. They're looking pretty unbeatable.
They are. And it's like inflations in point spreads with these kind of teams too. I mean, I just feel like a real line might be like something like 8.5, and they tack up a 10. And I guess with the injuries, obviously that's going to help. And yes, with the home field advantage. But no matter what with the Seahawks, like the rest of the way, you're gonna see the inflated point spreads with this team, because quite honestly, they're the best team in the league right now. I mean, does anyone want to make the case with Denver? Does anyone want to make a case with any other team right now? Probably not.
No, I don't.
Well, the only reason why Seattle's the best team in football is because they have that home field advantage. And it's their thing. It's what makes them good. It's part of their being that team.
They're still a better defense than Denver, LJ.
And I still would want to see what Peyton Manning could do going up there into Seattle. I'd still want to see what Tom Brady could do with a healthy Rob Gronkowski going up to Seattle with Bill Belichick. I mean, there's teams out there that, and on given a couple of weeks to prepare, Let him go up to Seattle. I think there's some coaches and player combinations that could go up there and beat them. There's some good teams with some good talent that could go up there and beat that team. And you can't, not knocking anything Pete Carroll's doing, but again, we watched Bill Belichick give the ball to Peyton Manning in overtime, taking the wind, in a genius move that won him the game. And he's still with the team with all those injuries. He still has his team in first place and doing stuff. And Tom Brady's still the best closer in football. I still think he is at quarterback. And I'd like to see him go up to Seattle and with a healthy Rob Gronkowski and go at that Seattle defense.
Well, one other one I want to talk about is Dallas and the Redskins. I think this line will go up, honestly. I still think no one wants anything to do with Washington, no matter what Kirk Cousins did. Dallas, after that horrific loss last night, is going to be lined up to hopefully play Philly in the last game of the season in Week 17. Honestly, that's what I think is going to happen, because that's going to be ratings. But that would involve both the Cowboys and the Eagles winning next week, or both the Cowboys and the Eagles losing next week. I think there'll be a big consensus on the Cowboys no matter what in this spot.
Dallas defense can't stop anyone. They're awful. They're horrible.
They're a mess.
They are one of the worst. It's pathetic. They can't beat anybody because they can't stop anybody.
They can beat themselves.
You got their best wide receiver walking off the field frustrated, and people call him a prima donna. But if that was Tom Brady frustrated about his defense we've seen Tom Brady yell, scream, do everything else. We're going to get mad at Des Bryant for showing that same kind of fire. That Dallas team has problems. I don't know if the public can go jump all over that, but I don't know if that's going to be, that's a winner.
I don't think so either. I just right back to the road fave this week, and Dallas is already a popular team anyways. Maybe it won't come off the 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. I mean, at this point, Kirk Cousins played great yesterday. Washington doesn't have a first-round pick. Do you really think they're going to tank anything the rest of the year? I think they'll still play out of respect.
Yeah, I think Kirk Cousins is going to play because he wants to win. Pierre Garçon just likes catching passes from him. They seem to when he's on the field, Pierre seems to play better. They're going to win to win. I mean, they're still and Cousins wants to play for a job. He wants to be a starter somewhere. He wants $1 million, he wants that big contract. So at least you're going to see Kirk Cousins go for it. I don't know about everybody else, but you'll at least see that. Extra
motivation. Well, let's talk about a game that we know there's going to be motivation from both sides. New England at Baltimore is going to be a 4:00 game next week for some reason. I think that would make the better night game, but that's just my opinion. But Baltimore is laying a short number right now, -1. This is where everyone comes out of caves and caverns and Southie and Northie and come out and bet the Pats when they see them as a dog or even a short favorite off a loss. That's just a trend that people love to bet. So I think you're definitely going to see heavy action on the Patriots this week, although Baltimore winning tonight could change a lot of that for next week. Granted, this is an early line we're looking at. 'Cause it depends what happens tonight. This isn't going to be the same thing tomorrow morning. But an early line has anything under a field goal with the Pats involved. Don't you think there's going to be heavy wood-sided action on it?
Oh, people love to bet the Patriots, and they will forever, especially when there's a short line. People throw it into teases. Everybody, the Patriots got that goes right into the tease. Let's go.
Yeah.
People love, the Patriots are the team that people love to gamble on.
I don't know. I think there's some Baltimore fans in hiding, and, they're going to look at the Patriots, performance the last few weeks and come in on Baltimore here.
Well, if the Ravens win tonight, it also affects Green Bay. All of a sudden, we were talking about that, the Green Bay game for next week. when the Packers play the Steelers, that game, if Aaron Rodgers comes back, it becomes a whole different game. And Randall Cobb will be back. If they have a shot at the playoffs, which they will if the Tigers lose, the Lions lose, then they have a shot at it, and that becomes that line change next week.
Yes. This is what we were talking about earlier. Currently, the odds of the Packers winning the NFC are 35-1, and then for the whole thing, it's 70-1. So it was a great point that LJ brought up that we talked about before the show, that if Baltimore wins tonight, then instantly those odds are going to change overnight, because that makes Detroit's record now 7-7, and then the Bears will be 8-6, right?
Yeah.
And then the Packers will be sitting at 7-6-1 with a legitimate shot again. And all of a sudden, they could have Aaron Rodgers back, and then they could make a run. So you could be seeing some huge value with that 35-1 or even 70-1.
Yeah, because those got cut in half. I mean, right now, literally, if you're looking at this on a Monday afternoon, I mean, too bad we're not live, but on a Monday afternoon, you're looking at this, you're going, well, I mean, what's wrong with, if you've got $100 that you don't care if you tie it up into something, go put that $100 down. It could turn into a lot more money it could turn into $3,500 just by making that bet.
Well, I like the idea of it. I mean, and I guess that gets into where we want to go for tonight's game. But I mean, I really think Baltimore is going to win tonight. I like them. I think they have the extra motivation right now. I hate to go against Detroit at home, because they score about 31 points a game there. And they're in a dogfight in the NFC North, but there's more time in the NFC North. There's no time in the AFC North. Baltimore needs to win.
Yeah, they need
tonight.
This game.
And I think this is just it's going to come down to the next couple of weeks, and the ratings are going to be through the roof, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I guess I'll throw it out there since I'm still talking, but my other fearless prediction for tonight is the under 50.
Under 50. Lock it up. I like that, French. That's a good one. I think that's a good one. What do you think, LJ?
I don't know. I like the high scoring. I like the idea of a high scoring game in this one. Tonight's game comes down to Jim Schwartz's incompetence and Matt Stafford's and Calvin Johnson's ability to connect versus Jim Harbaugh's. He's going to have an excellent game plan. Pitt is going to be back. It looks like he's he might run the ball with Ray Rice a little more. This is a team that went to the Super Bowl and won. These are the defending champs. This is a team that's better run than the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are not a well-coached team. They're undisciplined. They've got issues. They're one-dimensional. If Reggie Bush, they've become very one-dimensional. They can get the ball to Reggie Bush, but really, when you shut down Calvin Johnson, you shut him down. That's what the Steelers did. All of a sudden, in the second half, they couldn't get the ball to Calvin Johnson. The Steelers ended up beating them. That's another AFC North team, plays a similar game, plays a similar defense. So it comes down to Schwartz is an incompetent, and I'm betting against the incompetent versus the competent. So I'll take the Ravens too.
All right, Smarch, fearless prediction?
I'm in with the Lions, and I think
that's okay.
I've been rooting for the Lions most of this year.
Yeah, me too.
We have some people who are on that bandwagon, and certainly Chris Curtis probably waiting for the Lions too. He's not with us right now, but
sorry, Chris, if you ever hear this, I'm sorry. I'll be back on him next week for you. Though. We'll get him in.
And as a programming note, Chris Curtis will be doing a play-by-play of the Monday night game tonight.
Oh, nice.
And we will have a link up in this show. I'm going to put the show up this afternoon so everyone can get it. And if you enjoyed our breakdown of the Monday night action, you can definitely check out Chris Curtis for a alternate play-by-play of the Baltimore Ravens at Detroit Lions tonight on Monday Night Football. So
if you don't want to hear Happy Pappy John Gruden,
if you're getting tired of John Gruden and those guys, Definitely check out
his
Chris
happy,
Curtis.
pappy self. Everybody, that was just great, except, he's very positive. You know who Bob Voulgaris is, French?
No.
He is the guy that's made millions of dollars gambling on basketball. He was the one who embraced analytics before analytics was embraced by most of the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
He spent $1.5 million on computers and software and analyzed basketball in a way that they're doing it now.
Wow.
Now, who is going to be the person that does that for football? Who is going to do the analytical work? Is it out there? I've read a story about it. There's something you could buy. It's a limited thing. But who's going to be the person out there? That's the thing. You got to look at this stuff analytically more so than anything else. Voulgaris has made millions of dollars. He won't bet. He won't make a bet that's more than $1 million.
Wow.
And he tells the story about how he made his bankroll, his enough to become a professional gambler. It was the year Phil Jackson took over for the Lakers. He bet that the Lakers would win. It was a futures bet. He bet that the Lakers were going to win the championship that year. He got good odds. He had a bunch of money he had made over the summer. He said, I can tie this up in a bet, tied it up the whole year. And it was one of the biggest things he's ever had to sweat because Portland nearly beat him that year. But he ended up with a bankroll on a futures bet and he wrote it into millions of dollars.
Wow.
French, there you go. There's a role model for you.
I'll keep it in mind.
You got it. Now you need to just get on the analytics thing.
Yeah.
That's going to wrap it up for us. If you like what you heard and you keep listening, just check us out on freeagentspodcast.com. And the show will be up Monday before Monday Night Football. Also, check out Chris Curtis and his play-by-play. We have an event on Facebook for that, and you can find our Facebook page through our website, freeagentspodcast.com. And thanks again for listening.
All right. Take care, guys.